A water outage in Howard County. What's causing this and when leaders expect the issue to be resolved? And breaking news from overnight, a deadly double shooting in Mount Vernon. What Fox 45 News has learned about the city's recent act of violence.
The federal investigation into Hunter Biden went on for years and was almost resolved. So is it now back to the drawing board? I'm Christine Frizzell with what we're learning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Right now, Baltimore police are looking for 3 missing children. Take a look at your screen. Police believe these children, Shania, Joseph, and Jasmine Bush, are together. They were last seen in southwest Baltimore, just north of Union Square Park. If you have any idea where they are, you're asked to call 911. We have shared these photos and more descriptions on our Facebook page and at foxbaltimore.com. Also happening right now in Howard County, where a number of homes are experiencing water outages and water pressure issues. In an update this evening, County Executive Calvin Ball says it's because of a rupture at the water main coming from the Elk Ridge pumping station. Communities impacted include Ellicott City, Elk Ridge, and Snowden River Parkway.
We hope that by midnight tonight, the vast majority of people should have water, and it should be still those last 3 residents that are connected to the water main. Once we have the contractor working tomorrow morning, we anticipate it should be up to 2 business days for them to complete their work.
The cause of the rupture is not known. Good evening. The suspects opened fire, shooting him, and they drove away in the stolen car. Fox 45 spoke with members of the victim's family who say they're struggling to deal with their loss.
Can't believe that it actually happened. It still hasn't sunk in. I still can't believe he's gone. I just want him back. I just want to walk down in my basement and see him sitting in his chair and him saying, "Ha, the joke's on you. I got you, babe." That's just how he was. That's how we were. I never got to say a final goodbye. He was the most generous person. He would give you the shirt off his back. He wouldn't hurt a fly. And if he could do anything for you, he would.
Tomorrow, Mayor Brandon Scott and other public safety leaders will hold a news conference on the city's crime crisis. The mayor is expected to talk about proposed legislation to enhance the city's re-entry efforts for those who've been incarcerated. That press conference set for 3 o'clock, and you can get the latest news right here on the 4 o'clock show. 2 weeks after the body of a woman was found on a popular hiking trail in Bel Air, the search for a killer continues. Last week, Harford County Sheriff revealed they've identified a suspect in the death of Rachel Morin, but they don't know who he is. They only found him because of DNA that matched a violent assault of a child in Los Angeles earlier this year. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart reports on what this new evidence could mean for the search.
It's a critical piece of evidence in putting together a timeline of the hours between Rachel Morin's evening hike, August 5th, to the following afternoon a jogger discovered her body. DNA evidence linking the murder suspect to this man captured on doorbell camera, leaving the scene of an assault and home invasion in Los Angeles back in March. Law enforcement expert Tyrone Powers says police now have a profile of who they're looking for, which is critical.
We've already connected to cases. We've got an idea of what the individual looks like. We know that he's violent, and we know that it's probably random.
The randomness of this attack is why he says everyone has to remain vigilant. Hartford County sheriffs have increased patrols along the Ma and Pa Trail, but Powers says the DNA link between the assault in LA and the killing of Rachel Morin could indicate a pattern of increasingly violent attacks.
That very evil people who are willing to carry out acts like this do exist, and once they have committed one act, they don't mind committing another one because they believe that if they get caught, they're going to do a significant amount of time anyway. So the reality of the matter is, unless you catch them, they're not likely to change their behavior.
Hartford County investigators still have a tall task of tracking down a suspect. Even with his DNA and a profile of his back, officers don't know his name or where he could be now. Powers says this search will be a joint effort.
Other police departments across the nation to look for an individual like him, look for DNA at crime scenes that would indicate where he is in the country. And it allows us, even with the brief photo that they have or the brief video that they have, to go out and talk to some people and maybe identify when and where he was in this area, look at other camera evidence to see if he was here and where did he go.
Now, he says this investigation is about time, quickly sharing intel with other agencies, combing through tips, but ultimately bringing this suspect in for questioning.
Well, the sense of urgency is he is a danger to anyone in the United States, coast to coast. He's an individual who apparently looks for vulnerable individuals, takes advantage of them, and ultimately killed Rachel.
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Now we know Hartford County Executive Bob Castley says cameras will be coming to the trail where the murder happened. In the meantime, the sheriff's office says people should still be careful while out walking on the trail.
I urge our citizens to use caution while walking on our trails and throughout our community. Be alert, walk with a friend, don't allow yourself to be distracted by your cell phone or headphones. And finally, if you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable or that you think is suspicious, act on those instincts and call 911.
Fox 45 News will continue to follow this investigation. You can follow along both on air and online. Be sure to download the Fox 45 app for the latest updates. Just search WBFF in your app store to get started. 4 days after a pest issue forced the Harris Teeter and Locust Point to close, the grocery store still remains shuttered. And what we know about Amtrak using eminent domain to advance the Frederick Douglass Tunnel replacement, the number of homes in West Baltimore impacted.
And we are looking at a hot and humid day ahead of us tomorrow. Actually, the potential to near record highs. We are looking at highs in the mid-90s, feeling closer to the upper 90s. I'll let you know exactly how long the heat and humidity is going to stick around this week in a couple of minutes on Fox 45 News at 10.
Back now with the Fox 45 quad box. In Spain, officials say the massive fire burning on one of the Canary Islands was started deliberately. The fire started last Tuesday and has so far consumed nearly 30,000 acres. Russia's first mission to the moon in nearly half a century ended in failure. Moscow's space agency says the unmanned spacecraft moved into what they called an unpredictable orbit and likely crash landed onto the surface of the moon. The Republican Party gearing up for its first primary debate of the election season. It's happening this Wednesday in Milwaukee. So far, Donald Trump has indicated he will not attend. He was recently charged with election interference in the 2020 elections in Georgia. Tropical storm Hillary making landfall in Mexico over the Baja California Peninsula. The storm has taken the life of at least one person. In Los Angeles, leaders are evacuating at-risk homeless communities and are warning residents to stay off the roads.
This is an unprecedented weather event, but Los Angeles has deep experience responding to crisis. Whether it be wildfire or earthquakes, the city is prepared.
Coming up in a moment, meteorologist Amy Aronson will track Hillary's path as well as tropical activity here in our region. And bringing you live pictures of the White House. Tonight, new developments in the federal investigation into President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Just 3.5 weeks ago, the president's son had been prepared to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges and a separate gun charge. But the deal appeared to completely be abandoned. National correspondent Christine Frizzell with the latest in that investigation and why House Republicans are sounding alarm bells about their own.
The years-long investigation, said to be winding down just 4 weeks ago, now appears to be blown wide open. 2 tax misdemeanor charges brought in Delaware, to which Hunter Biden had planned to plead guilty, have now been dismissed, which could pave the way for new, more serious charges to be brought. It's a dramatic pivot from what the New York Times now reports was a time when then prosecutor David Weiss appeared to be willing to forego any prosecution of Hunter Biden at all, and his office came close to ending the investigation without requiring a guilty plea on any charges.
Do you solemnly swear?
The article also suggesting Weiss may have been swayed by IRS whistleblowers.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys.
Now that prosecutor David Weiss has been made special counsel, it will give him more independence from the DOJ and the ability to pursue more charges. Still, House Republicans say that role could hamper their efforts to access additional information in their own investigation.
We're about to find out whether the special counsel is going to interfere in our investigation because we're headed to court.
Still, Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has just asked the National Archives for unredacted documents and communications related to Ukraine from the time Joe Biden was vice president.
Well, what we've now learned is Joe Biden was using a fake email name to receive correspondence from his staff that he was copying Hunter Biden on. And I believe, Maria, that Hunter had to prove value to the Burisma owners that they were working on this.
President Biden has repeatedly denied any involvement in his son's business dealings and was recently asked about the appointment of Weiss as special counsel.
I have no comment on any investigation that's going on. That's up to the Justice Department, and that's all I have to say.
Others, meanwhile, will have plenty to say, as the investigation into Hunter Biden is expected to build and broaden in the days ahead. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
The Harris Teeter in Locust Point remains closed tonight following a pest issue. The store by Fort McHenry closed Thursday. The store says it's working with their pest control company and the city's health department to reopen the store. The city's health department, however, still has not listed the location as closed under the list of businesses shut down for health code violations. Harris Teeter hasn't said when it plans to reopen the store. And Amtrak wants to use eminent domain to acquire a number of properties in West Baltimore. It's part of their $6 billion renovation of the 150-year-old Baltimore and Potomac Tunnel. In court filings last week, Amtrak says negotiations have failed in the acquisition of 4 properties on North Payson Street. About 29 residential properties and 19 commercial properties are affected. Amtrak says those properties combined are worth $267,000. The company is invoking federal code that allows them to use eminent domain to acquire property that is, quote, necessary for intercity rail transportation. All right, we're in for the best days of summer. Another year of the Maryland State Fair begins this Thursday. Since 1879, the fair has boasted delicious foods, tons of free entertainment, world-famous concerts, and animals galore. The fair will run over the next 3 weekends and will conclude on September 10th. Fox 45 News will be there, so make sure to stop by and say hello. Amy, I can't believe we're already talking about the state fair. It doesn't feel like we're at that point of the summer, but I'm hoping the weather will be nice enough, or at least for the first weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, it's bittersweet because it's always kind of the end of summer, the kickoff to the back-to-school fall season. It's still going to feel like summer, though, as everything kicks off this weekend. Thursday for opening day, fantastic conditions. Not too hot, not too cold. High temperatures in the low 80s with a nice mix of sun and clouds. We are tracking the potential for some spotty storms Friday into Saturday, but I don't think either day is a washout. Plus, it's going to feel kind of summery out there with highs near 90 on Friday, mid-80s on Saturday. Sunday looks awesome. So as the first weekend wraps up, it's going to be comfy with temperatures back in the upper 70s. And this is just the first weekend of it. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, they're dealing with a much different and a much more serious situation there. They're actually still dealing with Hillary as that brings tropical storm conditions to the area. They are tracking flooding rain, also very, very strong winds. Flood watches still posted for that region as we get into Monday. Meanwhile, on the other side of the East Coast, we've got some activity in our tropics in the Atlantic. Say hello to Tropical Storm Emily. That will not have an impact on land, fortunately, staying out to sea. And then Franklin also developed today, actually, as a tropical storm. This one also should not be an impact for us, although National Hurricane Center does show it eventually becoming a hurricane. Closer to home, things are quiet. We had a beautiful weekend. Little hot out there today, but temperatures are cooling down tonight back into the upper 70s. Tomorrow's going to be a hot one, a hot and humid start to the work week. I am tracking a few rain chances by the end of the week, and that's going to usher in some cooler temperatures by next weekend. But tomorrow's going to be a hot one, hottest day of the week. Because of that, we've actually got a code orange air quality alert from Baltimore on southward. This has to do with air pollution levels. So if you have any issues breathing, limit your time outside. It's going to be hot, it's going to be steamy out there, and a little uncomfortable. And this is all because we're south of this approaching cold front. Not much happening along that front. As it drops in from the north here, it's not really going to send us any showers or storms. It's just going to bring our temperatures down eventually. Monday, hot day though. As that front passes through on Tuesday, clouds up our skies, fades away, so we don't see rain from it, but it will bring our temperatures back down to more manageable levels. Tomorrow's the hottest day of the week as highs soar into the mid-90s, feel like temperatures in the upper 90s. Tuesday, much more comfortable. We're back in the low 80s with mostly cloudy skies to begin and some sunshine by day's end. And you'll notice the rest of the week's not as hot. We've got low 80s thrown in there midweek. As a new weather maker moves in by week's end, this one will come with some moisture and a chance for some spotty to scattered showers and storms Friday into Saturday. We briefly heat up as that moves in, but then we cool down behind it. So you'll notice the weekend ends on a much more comfortable note. Next Sunday looks fantastic again with highs settling back into the upper 70s. Mackenzie?
All right, Amy, thanks. Fox 45 News is keeping an eye out for new filings in the Marilyn Mosby upcoming federal trial. The deadline awaiting tomorrow as the former city state's attorney fights to move her case out of Baltimore. Former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby now has until tomorrow to make the argument about why her upcoming federal trial should be moved out of Baltimore to Greenbelt. The defense argues they will not be able to find an impartial jury in Baltimore because of media coverage. Prosecutors disagree. Mosby is facing 4 federal charges of perjury and making false statements on a loan application. There will be a hearing on the venue change request next month. Mosby's federal trial is set to begin on October 31st. Fox 45 News is your back-to-school headquarters, and it's the last full week of summer break for many students. Morgan State students will actually kick off learning tomorrow. The semester will kick off tomorrow morning with a welcome-back breakfast with President Wilson. Then next week, students from Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Harford, and Howard counties will return to school. Then on Tuesday, September 5th, students in Carroll County and Cecil County will return to their first day of school. A weekend in the life of a firefighter. Straight ahead, we'll take you to East Baltimore, where some kids are learning critical life-saving skills. And as global economies continue to battle inflation, why a controversial strategy many financial institutions are using is raising some concerns. With banks around the globe recently facing their most serious crisis since 2008, it's focusing attention on a controversial strategy many financial institutions have been engaging in: ESG. It stands for environmental, social, and governance. Some call it woke investing. Full Measure's Cheryl Atkinson reports on the backlash.
We start in San Francisco, home of the largest environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, mutual fund company, Parnassus Investments. It manages about $40 billion in assets. Marion McIndoe heads ESG stewardship at Parnassus.
ESG is a way of investing that takes into consideration governance factors, environmental factors, and social factors.
McIndoe differentiates between what Parnassus does, searching for wise investments with places that follow environmental, social, and governance principles, and something called impact investing, which may include pressuring customers into action. She says Parnassus has advocated for new government rules requiring companies to report their climate change policies. But she says Parnassus doesn't do impact investing, trying to change policies of investors. But many other companies do, and that's a problem, says John Schroeder.
I get your ability as an independently owned company to push the policies that you like. Just don't force it down my throat.
Schroeder is Louisiana's state treasurer, managing a $64 billion cash flow. He noticed the environmental, social, and governance hard sell, he says, shortly after he took office in late 2017. It arrived in the form of letters from Citibank and Bank of America.
And these banks wanted to basically force us to have certain policies in Louisiana. It was over gun licensing and permitting, and you had to be 21 to carry. And
Schroeder and his team made a big decision. They flipped the ESG script. Louisiana began requiring the big financial players to pass a test. Louisiana's questionnaire identifies 3 deal breakers. Does the company have policies to boycott Israel, restrict firearms or discriminate against those who own them, or restrict business with anyone in the fossil fuel industry?
You answer the questions, you can negotiate with the state. You don't answer the questions, I take that as you didn't want to do business with the state of Louisiana.
What is your take on the backlash against ESG?
Well, I think it's unfortunate. I think that we have more in common than what divides us on these issues. Even if you don't believe in climate change, which I do, you can believe in climate change regulation and the impact that that's going to have as we transition away as a globe away from a fossil fuel-based system.
President Biden installed a rule urging private retirement plans to factor in ESG when deciding where to invest money for 150 million Americans. Congress tried to reverse that, but Biden recently used his first veto to keep the pro-ESG policy in place. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
The O's sweep their way out of Oakland with 3 straight wins against the A's. Why it pays to be one of the fastest players in the league, coming up next on Sports Unlimited. Take a look at this. Some young people exploring careers as firefighters this weekend. This was at Camp Spark in East Baltimore. This weekend, firefighters showed the kids what they do with one main goal: empower the next generation of female firefighters.
The importance of having Camp Spark is so that young ladies can know that they have an opportunity to be within the fire service. Because by this being a male-dominated job, a lot of times women don't understand that they can do this too. So we want them to be exposed and know it's one of those things where you can't be what you can't see. So we are here for them to see that they are able to do this job and function in the capacity just like everyone else.
I love that. Graduation ceremony was held this afternoon to celebrate Camp Spark. And that's all for the news at 10. I'm Mackenzie Frost. Thank you for watching. Morgan Etzit and Rocco DeSangro join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan, Rocco?
Mackenzie, come up tonight on Sports Unlimited. The Orioles go up 3 games, and we are 3 weeks away from another Birds season opener.
Yeah, Morgan, 3 Sundays from now, we'll have the Ravens Week 1 coverage against Houston. Cannot wait, but until then, this preseason's going to have to do.
All eyes on a quarterback battle tomorrow night when the Ravens head to Washington. Hughes QB2. Tyler Huntley's out with an injury, leaving the door open for Josh Johnson. How the quarterback snap count will play out for Monday night preseason football against the Commanders.
His dad made one of the biggest plays in Ravens postseason history. How it motivated rookie running back Keaton Mitchell to make his own mark on the franchise.
The Orioles brought the power in their sweep over the A's, but it was Jorge Mateo's inside the park home run speed that got the Birds party started in Oakland. Sports Unlimited starts after this.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Sports Unlimited. She's Morgan Etzit. I'm Rocco DeSangro. This time in 3 weeks, we will be bringing you post-game reports from the Ravens' Week 1 showdown with the Texans. Can't believe it.
Almost here. But on that same Sunday, they may not lead the show as the Orioles are showing they will not give up for first place, and a deep postseason run should be expected. The Birds speedy way, more homers, but with power coming in the 4th. Up 4-0, Ryan Mountcastle out to left center, a whopping 439 feet with 2 on, 7-0 Orioles. To the pitching, Kyle Bradish remains filthy. 6 innings, shutout innings, only 2 hits, 8 strikeouts. And just in case that wasn't enough, Gunnar Henderson gets back to the Birds' power single shot to right. 8-0 O's. He had that, a triple, and 2 doubles. All Orioles in the sweep over the Athletics, 12-1. The O's adding to their AL East lead after that sweep. 3 games over the Rays, with the Blue Jays getting out of reach, 8.5 back. And look at that, Orioles fans. I know, so sad to see the Red Sox and Yankees rounding out the bottom, 11 and 17 games back.
Ryan Ripken back for another segment on Sports Unlimited talking O's baseball. Rip, the O's get a big 12-1 win over the A's. They sweep the Athletics in Oakland, and they finish that West Coast road trip with a 6-3 record. I think it's big time.
Yeah, and it's really challenging to go onto the West Coast. I know some teams can make it easy, especially the Orioles, who have just been fantastic on the road, but going across country, getting used to the time difference, and then being 3-3 headed into that last series, sweeping Oakland, you feel good. Now you have Toronto coming to your ballpark. Vibes are high in Baltimore.
How about the guy who pitched the game today? That's Kyle Bradish. 6 strong innings, scoreless baseball, 8 strikeouts, and he lowers his ERA to 3.03. That's tied for the American League lead with Garrett Cole.
I mean, that's the crazy thing, is that we're talking about Kyle Bradish right now that probably no one thought is actually pitching as well as he is so far this season. And there was actually a moment where it happened. It was at Milwaukee after the first inning, weird inning in that game, where they just had a couple hits find a hole. And Kyle, it was just that moment for me during the season where he said, you know what? Enough's enough. And since that moment, Rock, Kyle has been astounding, and the Orioles have seen why they've been so high on him. The front office has been so high on him. Kyle Bradish has elite stuff and can be an ace for this pitching staff.
I was just going to ask you that, but we'll switch gears, go to the offense. Jorge Mateo, big inside the park home run in this game, and that was his first home run since April. It came in a big way, showing off the speed.
Hey, you know, by any means necessary, and Mateo's value is his speed, and it was really great to see. Obviously, the struggles for Mateo are documented, right? But as we're getting close to the postseason, why not have one of your players that's been around that you know is going to be a part of this team get a little confidence? Great to see from Mateo in Oakland.
I'll say this, Gunnar Henderson, 4 for 5, 4 extra base hits, 1 single shy of the cycle. What he did today, baseball historians may not like too much. I think coaches, they would absolutely love. Henderson comes up. He's got a chance at a single. Instead, he goes for 2, just running hard in a blowout game. What did you think of that? That was really cool to see, I think.
Hey, I love to see it personally. I know it's cool to have the stat or to be in that history of cycles, right? But Gunnar Henderson, he's a team guy.